Welcome to Voices from the Field podcast presented by Extra Innings Softball, where the stories are real, the conversations are honest, and the game goes way beyond the field. We're bringing you insight, inspiration, and all things softball from the people shaping the sport.
Welcome back to Extra Innings Softball Podcast, Voices from the Field. I am super excited about our guest today. Her name is Nicole Vaughn. She is the North Alabama FCA Director, and just a lot of neat pieces that are bringing all this back together. Katie and I talk about it all the time. Our favorite ones to do it, anything that has to do with faith on the field and giving these young women a platform to speak his names. Welcome, Miss Nicole. I would love just to give you like 2-3 minutes to say who you are, how you got where you're at, your walk, your faith, anything that you want to share, and then we'll go and hit some questions and see if we can't spread a little Jesus juice around the world.
All righty then. So I have been on staff with FCA since 2016. And before I get into that part, I do want to go ahead and share the vision, the mission, and the values of FCA. So our vision is to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. And so we changed our vision statement a little bit about 4 years ago. And because we really wanted to emphasize the fact that transformation happens by Jesus. And so that word by was really huge, that we added that to our vision statement to clarify that we understood that everything was through Christ. And then our mission is to lead every coach and athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and his church. FCA is very connected with our local church. Every FCA staff person is locally sponsored and is locally funded. And so we're very connected with our local churches because we know that we are not the church. We are on mission for the church. And so that is part of our mission to make sure that, we want to share the gospel, but we also want to get everyone who hears and everyone who believes connected with a local church so that discipleship can take place and that they can keep growing and have a true family around them. And our values are: our relationships will demonstrate steadfast commitment to Jesus Christ and his word through integrity, serving, teamwork, and excellence. And then, that those values is really where it begins to connect in ministering to coaches and athletes and the importance of that. And I've just seen that more and more the longer that I have served. And so for my personal testimony, I started playing softball when I was in second grade. And so there was a ball in my hand, whether it was a softball, whether it was a basketball or a volleyball. I just rotated to whatever season it was with a ball, and I played everything that I could. We changed schools when I was in high school, and that caused me to have to sit out a year of sports because of the rules that were in place back in the day when I was in high school. And that caused me to lose my footing and my position, and I began to spiral at that point. And so I completely lost one of the sports, basketball, never played it again after ninth grade, but was continuing with softball and volleyball. But at the same time, I was still spiraling because I had never really recovered from that. And through that spiraling, just, one bad decision after another. So I had grown up in and out of church and had been introduced to the gospel and had believed that Jesus was who he says he was, that he'd lived, that he'd died, that he was buried, and that he rose again. And if I confessed that I was a sinner and made him Lord of my life, that when I died, I would go to heaven. That was my understanding of the gospel. So I was waiting to die to spend time with Jesus. So because that was what I knew. I had never been discipled. And so through that lack of discipleship and not really being grounded in what I believed or really having a faith that I knew could work out, and I really felt like I was on my own. And so which led to just bad decisions, bad choices. And so I had a scholarship to play college ball and got a little bit of an attitude problem end of my junior year and just quit softball. I had a scholarship to play collegiate ball, and I just walked away from it because I had made a bad decision to stay out of practice one day because our basketball team was in the state playoffs, and how dare my coach make us practice when our basketball team is in the state playoffs. And so I just was going to like put my foot down and show her who was boss. And then she put a freshman out there in my position. I was like, I'm not sitting the bench. No. And so, and I threw it all away. And it's probably been the biggest regret of my life up until the point that I had met Christ. And that just continued to, more spiraling. And so at the age of 24, after I was married, my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, I think we should probably go to church since we're married. That's what married people do, right? They go to church. We're in the South. That's what you do.
I love that.
Yeah. So we started attending a church, and for the first time, someone taught me how to read my Bible, and someone took me through a Bible study. And the first Bible study that I ever went through was the book of Daniel. That was my very first one. And if you've ever read that, I was baptized with fire. And so, but as I got into the word and I read the word and I discovered who God was through the book of Daniel, it was the first time that I realized that I didn't have to wait to die to have a relationship with Jesus. Like, I had never known that he was involved in what was going on in our everyday world here. I just kind of thought we were on our own. And as long as we believed that when we died, we'd get to go to be with him. And that was it. It had never been taught to me that he wanted to be involved with every area of our life right here, right now. And so someone taking me through the word, someone discipling me, someone showing me, like, I didn't even know that I was indwelt with the Holy Spirit. Like, I didn't even know that, like, God was with me, that he was in me. He was this distant being that I hoped that I didn't mess up what I believed, and that I, got to see him then. And so when at the age of 24, when that connection was made, that was it. I was on fire, and I was also just deeply angry. I was angry at the fact that nobody had told me that, because I looked back and I was like, had I known this then, I would have made so many different choices. And so it's like God took that and he made it a fire that burned within me to send me out to go and to teach and to share his word and to share that message with others, so that maybe they would be able to not do that spiral like I did, or at least spiral as far.
Yeah. Well, that tells me a lot of how you ended up with FCA, because what an incredible platform to be able to fill those holes and those gaps that weren't filled for you. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel very much that this is happening all the time in our country. Like, we want so bad for people to believe and to accept Christ, but then we do nothing. And that, to me, is the most dangerous time to leave somebody to their own avail to go do what they're doing, because Satan might attack you prior, but once you've given your heart to Satan, Satan's going to attack even harder, because he knows he's lost that battle. So he wants to win that bat to make it to where it didn't stick. And you don't grow, and that you can't go and gather more people. Yeah. And I think I see that. I see so many churches that I think are so incredible of introducing Jesus and getting people on fire. But then that next step, which it's not the most important, obviously, the most important is accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. But in order to have that personal relationship, like what you just shared with us, it's like, that's huge. And it's hard. Like, I don't always feel like I'm great at discipling. So I just keep going, keep reading, keep going. And I think it's the check-in. It's the check-ins with the people to say, hey, where you at? How you doing? Are you going to church? Are you surrounding yourself with those people? Because I know for a fact, when you surround yourself with two people that are making bad decisions, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to become the third.
Yes.
It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Like, there's there's no other way for that. So I definitely can see how maybe it was a regret for you, but I don't think it was for Jesus. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He needed you to go through that so that you had that passion for FCA. So I definitely think that's cool. So let me ask you this. How do you encourage athletes who are navigating the pressures of competition while trying to live out their faith? What gives some good golden nuggets for the athletes or their families that are out there living in a world that I think is almost there's so much good that it's kind of like social media for me. Social media is fantastic, but it can be horrible. And I think the pressures of what these young women are living through now are at a whole nother level because we've got our very first $1 million athlete playing at Texas Tech, and I think it's fabulous. It's generational changing money for her. Yet I also know that's a platform for Jesus. Yeah, I mean, not Jesus. It could be a platform for Jesus. I hope it is. Yeah. But it's an avenue for the devil to get in because anytime you put money involved with it, he's going to be right there with it because money definitely distracts people. What are some of the things or the golden nuggets that you can give our audience for these young women dealing with the pressure or the coaches or their parents to navigate where they're at and their faith?
I have 3 scripture verses that are scripture passages that I hold on to and that I share often when I'm considering competition and faith, and especially in where we're at today and where it seems to be heading in the area of sport. And that's 1 Corinthians 9:24-27. And it says, "Don't you know that the runners in a stadium all race, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way to win the prize. Now, everyone who competes exercises self-control in everything. They do it to receive a perishable crown, but we an imperishable crown. So I do not run like one who runs aimlessly, or box like one beating the air. Instead, I discipline my body and bring it under strict control, so that after preaching to others, I myself will not be disqualified." So that first one is practicing self-control. And that's something that we in our culture of America, that self-control, what? You want me to tell myself no? I have the opportunity and full availability to say yes, but you want me to tell myself no? Yes. Sometimes you need to tell yourself no. I mean, you've been handed this opportunity and you don't want to disqualify yourself by saying yes to things that you can't handle. And so you have to be able to practice self-control. And sometimes that self-control is saying, no, we're not going to take that extra tournament because we haven't been to church in 6 months. There's sometimes we have to say no to things that may be good opportunities because it's going to hurt our relationship with each other and our relationship with the Lord. So being willing to say no to things that may in the moment look like a really good opportunity. And so practicing self-control. The next is 2 Timothy 2:3-5. Share in suffering as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No one serving as a soldier gets entangled in the concerns of civilian life. He seeks to please the commanding officer. Also, if anyone competes as an athlete, he is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. Don't let winning cause you to sacrifice your integrity. Don't let the desire to be on top cause you to destroy your testimony. And remember that you're not the boss. You're not the boss. If you have a coach, respect the coach. If there are rules in place, respect the rules. And remember that it is God that you honor above all. And even if you're able to pull the wool over a coach, you can post what you want on social media. You can make it look all pretty. You can decorate it as you like, but God knows, God sees. And so don't destroy your testimony. Don't destroy your legacy over things that in the end don't matter. They just don't matter. And then the third one is 2 Corinthians 3:4-5. It says, "Such is the confidence we have through Christ before God. It is not that we are confident in ourselves to claim anything as coming from ourselves, but our adequacy is from God." Remember, you have what you have. You got what you got because God gifted it to you. You may have worked hard to develop it, but you got it because God gave it to you. And so respect that. And you can do that. Remember that in two ways. Remember that when it does get hard, when it is a struggle, that He is also there to help you in that. Because once again, He's the one that originated from. And then second of all, don't get too big for your britches. Remember that He is the one that give it to you
Absolutely.
to begin with. And so I think that, and everything always to me comes back to the word. It's like if you can just go back to the fact and to remember that you are here for the glory of God. And if whatever choice you're making doesn't glorify God, then it's the wrong choice. It's the wrong choice.
I absolutely love that self control, integrity, and a gift. I mean, I think that sums up three-quarters of the questions we were going to ask you for sure. So
Right.
I think that's awesome. Like, absolutely, Katie.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to this and kind of going back to like the sport competing and being able to, be a good steward of the Lord while also competing. I also think about that in life. Like I love how FCA is so catered towards the athlete, but also towards, the future. Cause one day they're going to put they're going to hang up their cleats the last time.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to go out into the real world and figure out how to be a good steward of the Lord in their new job, in their new role, in their family, in their marriage, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to ask you a question about that. Like, what role do you think faith plays in building strong, confident leaders, not only in sports, but also in the real life world when they graduate and they have to go out there and go on their own for the first time?
I think it plays everything. I don't think that apart from faith, you really have strong leaders. You may have someone who has a lot of wins, someone that has a lot of follows, someone who breaks a lot of records, and their name may be known, but that doesn't make them a leader. Leader is someone who is willing to help pull others up with them and bring them along. It's someone who is willing to lift others up, even if it means that they become less known. And I always go to John 3:30 to where John the Baptist said, He must increase and I must decrease. And so true leadership is someone who, if I walk away today, if there is no one that can step immediately behind me and fill my shoes, I've not led well. I've not led well because I'm finite and I'm only going to be here so long, and I don't want what I have done to die with me. So it's just so so there comes this point in time to where I should be leading in such a way that if I step away, there's already someone running the race in front of me that I've done pass the baton to, and there they go, and they better be having somebody behind them. Like I better be leading in such a way that I had led 3 or 4 feet deep. 3 or 4 persons deep. And so that to me is what is a testimony of a good leader, is that they can look back and they can see generations following behind them, and that whatever it is that they have invested in doesn't die with them. It doesn't disappear with them. It just gets better. It just gets better.
Do you need a new way to level up your game? I know travel softball season is in full force right now, and I want to make sure that you guys know about our Drill Zone page on our website. You can check out our Drill Zone, which is a growing library of position-specific drills to help players improve their skills and stay sharp. From hitting to defense to pitching, we've got something for every athlete. Our commit crew members, as well as some former college softball players, coaches, and our ambassadors gave their best drills for you. So go to our website, extrainningsoftball.com, go to the Extra tab, and there you will find our Drill Zone page.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to bounce that off and kind of maybe spin it in a little bit of a different direction that I think about all the time when I see it, because I think this year at the College World Series, it was amazing how much God showed up and showed out. Like in every aspect, there was story after story, team after team, athlete after athlete from all these public institutions, professing his name. And I'm sitting there going, whoa, what are we doing? Like, this is so cool, and for my daughter, she's very, very much on that walk and doing what she's doing. So it was so cool for her to see a platform that it was accepted, because it hasn't always been accepted.
Yeah.
And it's been that thing, well, yes, you can believe, but you have to do it on your own, and you got to go do it in the closet, not talk about it, specifically for me as a coach in public institutions and how you're doing. But I think the thing that I think about all the time is It's that personal relationship, and it doesn't always have to be pretty. You can have disagreements, you can have arguments, like you can have all those things. And I think that's that growth when the Holy Spirit's pulling on you. But what advice would you give to young athletes? And you can even say young coaches or old coaches or parents who are struggling to stay grounded in their faith. Like, I literally think about this. Like, my daughter and I have literally been on the road traveling across the country since the last weekend in May, maybe the second to last weekend. I don't know. I feel like I'm in nothing but in a car traveling in a field. And I do miss church. Like, I miss church tremendously. But what's so cool is I've got my 80-year-old parents who travel with us, and they're always at the field. And my dad and mom have their little ritual of bringing their Bibles and they read it together. My daughter does her thing. I'm doing my thing. So we do. But the thing that I love, that I literally was feeling really bad last week, and I'm like, I really just want to go to church. And if I can ever outlaw 8 a.m. games, I will do that, because it would give everybody the opportunity to do it. But so far, I haven't found 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning services to be able to go to when I'm on the road. But it was so cool. Like, I was feeling guilty. I was feeling bad about not being able to do it. And I literally this last weekend heard like 7 people go, "Oh, there's Macy's grandpa. He's reading the Bible." And I'm like, we're not supposed to be in church right now. We're supposed to be right here, because people are seeing that. And my daughter is playing for a team that she prays on the field before every game. And the first 2 weekends she was by herself. And all of a sudden there's 2 girls joining her, and I'm like, yeah, we are in church right now. Like, we're bringing the church to the field. But I think there is a lot of times that these young people particularly struggle to stay grounded in their faith when you have social media telling you to do different things, or you have teammates telling you or showing you different things. What advice would you give to them to help them stay grounded?
Once again, I'm going to bring it back to the word in just a second, but remember that the church is the people. It's not a building, and you have to start there. That's the Holy Spirit fills us, and it says that we are His temple, and where 2 or 3 or more are gathered together, there I am with them. So it starts there, is remembering we go to church to be gathered with the church. We go to a church building to be gathered with the church that is in that building. And so the church is us. The church is people. So find your people. First of all, find your people. Find people who they don't have to be Billy Graham's. It's just, yeah, I love God. I don't understand what all that means yet, but I'm willing to come and sit and be a part of what I can. And so Colossians 1:21-23 says, once you were alienated and hostile in your minds as expressed in your evil actions, but now He has reconciled you by His physical body through His death to present you holy, faultless, and blameless before Him. If indeed you remain grounded and steadfast in the faith and are not shifted away from the hope of the gospel that you have heard. So the only way that we can stay grounded and steadfast is to not be shifted away from the hope of the gospel that you have heard. Preach the gospel to yourself. It's like, remember who you were, remember whose you are now, and don't forget the hope that you have in Him. And find your people. If you can't make it, and remember that this is just a season. Travel ball does not last your whole life. College does not last your whole life. My baby, it just graduated from Mississippi State. So I am on, like, that season is over. And I remember us doing travel ball and feeling that same guilt where we're at the travel ball tournament and not being at church. What happens? All my 2 girls who were in travel ball led worship at our FCA camp this week. It's
That's
just
awesome.
they did not lose their faith. Because we did it as a family. We gathered as a team and did Bible studies and did prayers. And once again, the same thing that you shared about every travel ball tournament that we had, there were conversations taking place in the bleachers. There were prayers taking place in the bleachers, just from where other teams had saw what we were doing. So, and all of us are called to share the gospel. So this is where you are. This is the season that you are in. Maybe God is calling you to build the church on that circuit. So be known as the team that says, hey, if y'all want to have church, this team over here, has church every Sunday morning. They all meet at their tent, or they all, even get you a little pop-up tent with a cross on it, and take it with you and be like, hey, just find the tent with the cross. And so, I mean, there's so many ways that you can stay grounded and stay steadfast in your faith. But it starts with finding your people. You can't do it alone. And then remembering the gospel and preaching the gospel to yourself, because that is your hope. And just keep coming back to that.
I love that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I kind of want to ask a similar question, but more towards the coaches and the parents. At Extra Inning Softball, we're kind of trying to gear some of our content towards parents, because there's really not a place for them. I mean, you hear these how to get recruited and how to, improve your swing or whatever, but the parents are kind of left out there, navigating. I know you mentioned earlier, making those decisions of like, what does my family need versus what my child need? What's going to, help fuel our family versus just adding another tournament on to add to competition. So what would you say to parents and maybe some coaches out there about how to encourage their players to live out their faith while also leading their team, leading their families, trying to get recruited? There's so many different aspects involved with that. So how would you, recommend coaches or parents that are listening to this or watching this episode, how to lead their families and lead their team in a way that honors the Lord while also still, competing and working towards that goal, maybe of getting recruited and all that fun stuff?
Just in the conversations that I have had with collegiate coaches, I think a lot of times parents and athletes don't realize that coaches aren't just recruiting stats. They're recruiting families. They're recruiting parents. They're recruiting who you are off the field. They're looking at all those things. So when you are in the stands as that parent, cheer for the other kids as much as you cheer for your own. Support the coaches. Speak well of the coaches. Encourage your player to be like, oh, a lot of times as a parent, it's really easy to like go to the automatic defense of your child. And it's just, my child is perfect and they're the best player on the team, and they should have their playing time. But a coach is looking at things from a completely different angle, and they're seeing things from a different view. And so sometimes as that parent, you need to come along beside that coach and support that coach. And I guess that's the way that my dad raised me, and that my mom, I just grew up in a house to where my parents told me that if I had a coach or I had a teacher that told me that the sky was green, then yes, it was green until I got home and I could tell them that my teacher said, or my coach said, that the sky was green, and then they would address it. But at that point in time, I was just going to smile. All right, then, sky, I'll let the sky be green. And, and it was just basically just to teach to respect their position, respect their place of authority there. And don't blast your grievances all out on social media, because you don't have the whole picture. I mean, you may have seen something from one angle, and then come to find out if everybody comes together and talks, what you saw was not what you thought you saw. And you've just spread something on social media that was not true. And you may have just hurt your child's chances with not just that school that you were hoping that they would get in, but because they're going to talk just all over. So it's just be respectful and calm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just calm down.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Well,
breathe.
Make sure to go to our polls tab on our website to put in your input on different controversial opinions and hot takes. We have questions about fundraising, about if you think players today have more pressure than they did 10 years ago, how the game has grown, NIL, and so much more. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinions, and we most likely will talk about these topics on our podcast. So we want to get your input before we talk about it. So go to our website, extrainningsoftball.com, click on our polls tab, and make sure to give your input on softball's most controversial takes.
I'm constantly talking to my daughter that I always want her to look at everybody that comes into her world, everyone that God brings across her path at any time. They're there for one or two reasons. And after talking with Leah Mika, who does a lot of guest speaking for SCA, which I need to get you to test with because she's got 3 gold medals and she flies all over the country and talks. Don't let me forget to get you that information.
Please.
But I constantly say to her that they're brought into your life for you. God's going to use you to help them, or God's using them to help you. And then, like Leah said, or maybe it's both. So I think those are the kind of things that I keep trying to encourage with my daughter, that whether it's your teammates or your coaches or parents or umpires or anybody, is that to try to see them the way that Jesus would see them, even if you're angry with them, even if you don't like them, even if it's somebody that you might not need to really include in your world because it's not good. It doesn't mean that you have to turn your back. It just means that you keep them at a distance and you just spew those little Jesus, like we just jokingly say Jesus dripping. Like you just do it little at a time, because it's not always for us to know. I think sometimes the thing that I've learned as I've gotten older, that, you can be praying for someone really hard. You can encourage them. You can send them things, and then they might disappear out of your world and you don't know. But 20 years from now, they come back and say, that one time that you said X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, it wasn't me, because I don't even remember it. It was him. You just have to be okay with it. And I'd love to share this, that my daughter and I'm stealing this from somebody. This is not our original thought. If it was, I'd probably patent it and make lots of money off of it. But it's the number. They say scientifically that human beings have to hear something or experience something 7 times before they actually believe it, see it, accept it. And so they went on into this story to basically share that when you get and stand before Christ and you're getting ready for him to put a good egg stamp on your forehead, or I don't know you stamp on your forehead, is that you have 2 rooms, one to the left and one to the right. And the one on the left, where all should be almost virtually empty, because it's all the people that Jesus brought to you, that was on number 6. And you spoke his name the 7th time, and then they went off. And on the right was all the people who had never heard his name, and it's packed full. It's number 1s that are just moving to the next room, because you don't know which number Jesus has chosen for you to be in that person's life. Are you 1? Are you 2? Are you 6? And I pray that when I get there, that room of 6 is empty, that I didn't miss anyone. And I know I will have missed people, because I'm in my own self-pity. I feel like I'm too busy, whatever it is. But my hope is that my room of 6 is empty. And so that's something that I hope that my daughter is challenging. I hope that, and we literally just say, hey, number 6, every time we say that. That could be 6. That could be 6. You don't know, that could be 6. And so I think that's something that I would love. And going off of that, what I would love is for you to tell young people, parents, coaches, how do they get involved with FCA? If they don't have FCA at their high school and they don't know about huddles, how do they get that started? Where can they go? Even better yet, how do they drag their people that know nothing about Jesus to an FCA camp? Like our editor just worked with you last week down in Alabama. How do people find you, get you, do you, all that kind of stuff? Or how can they become huddle leaders, all that?
Well, you can actually go to just like fca.org, and on our website, there's all these drop downs to where you can search like camps, and you can put in your city and it'll pull up all the camps that are close to your area. And you can go to myfca.org and you can pull up your area, and it'll actually pull up the individuals that are on staff in that area. And so that's a really big place to start. We're also on all the social media. We're Vimeo, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or it's not Twitter anymore, is it X?
It's okay. I call it Twitter too, so it's okay.
LinkedIn.
You just aged yourself.
That was so bad. But and on all of those, you can search like your area and it'll pull up. Like you can even just go straight into the like, for me, I live in North Alabama, so I could just go in and say North Alabama FCA or North Alabama Fellowship of Christian Athletes in just my search bar, and it'll pull up links of the local areas. And then on all of our local areas, we'll have a contact that is like, how do I get involved with FCA? And you just respond to that. I would like someone to reach out to me, and then we can connect. We can find out what it is that you're needing. So like in our area, I cover 8 counties in North Alabama, and we are in every middle school and high school and college in those 8 counties. And so there's only like 8 of us on staff to cover those counties. And so we are very volunteer oriented. And one of my favorite things about FCA is that it is a local school coach. Like it is that a coach, or sometimes it's a teacher, but usually it's a coach on the campus that is over the campus FCA. And like we can connect, if their child goes to that school, we can connect them there. And then our camps and just any community events that we have on there. I mean, really all of that can be learned about through that. So just get into that Google search bar. All of our contact information is like, you can get my cell number, email, everything off of our website.
Well, and I know you guys do sports camps, but even my daughter attended like a FCA camp. It was all from all over the place. It was held down, I think, at Belhaven College. And so what's really cool is I think she did that 2 years ago. And what was great is it was where we were playing a tournament. So she didn't get to go for the whole week, but she went for the first 2 days, went and played, and went to the last day. And what's so cool is she's got friends that are athletes in Louisiana, in Texas, and stuff that are spread out, that it's really cool. Every now and then we'll be somewhere and she'll go, hey, and they'll talk. So it really helps kind of broaden and build that support system and that networking, and a way to be able to reach out to somebody that's completely away, maybe from her sport, but is playing in college in a different aspect, to be able to have a, hey, have you ever experienced this? Or I just need someone to talk to, or just an inspirational word, So I think there's so many ways to definitely get involved. And I'm going to put a shameless plug in for you. I think the thing that people don't realize is you are completely funded by people within your county, So not only are you doing all your work and all your organizing, but you've got to fundraise. I mean,
Yes.
we sit here and talk about parents who, it's so hard to fundraise for softball. Well, imagine fundraising your salary to be able to do what you're doing. I mean, it's a difficult thing, and I always tell people, like, no amount is too small. I don't care if it's $10 a month. I don't care if it's $5 a month. I don't care if it's a one-time donation of 500, but a lot of times it's just speaking and connecting, and getting the doors open to a church that might not be involved in FCA in your area, to say, hey, let's have Nicole come in and speak and talk about the project that you're doing and the things that are coming. And, inevitably Jesus shows up and shows out and always provides that, as far as I'm concerned. But I think it's something that even if you're not looking to be able to volunteer or give your time, if you can give your money, or if you can give the recommendations and those kind of things, I think that's what's really important too.
Yeah, we are completely locally funded. And so like this year I stepped out in faith and did the team softball camp with UNA and Northwest Shoals. And then that was our second year to do that camp. And then this July coming up, we've got a team volleyball camp with UNA, and we have over 40 teams that have registered to be a part of that. And so you got to feed all these people. And put handbooks and Bibles.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Wow. Love it.
This is my new favorite. This is our E3 study Bible. So like all of our leaders at the softball camp got this E3 study Bible from FCA, and then all of our coaches got a coach's Bible. We share the gospel, but we also put the gospel in their hands. So so the any amount matters. And so it's like one of the things that we do is we go on to the college campuses and the high schools and the middle schools, and we take popsicles and we share devotion. We share the gospel with the team. So we literally go through thousands of popsicles every school year. And so when you're talking about even little bit matters, a bag of our popsicles is $4. So every $4 helps take popsicles to a team. So yes, it all matters. It all matters.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed our time, and I would love to tell people that, not only are we getting our time with Nicole, but upcoming in the future, we have Dot Richardson coming in, who is the head coach at Liberty, who's going to tell us all about her experience at her conference tournament with 26 baptism, and talk about Jesus showing up and showing out and just taking a step of faith. What I would love to do is anything that we can plug for you, anything that we can continue to pass the light on and use for you, we are more than open to do that, whether it's joining for camps or maybe setting up an extra inning softball camp or something with you, with
Oh, that
FCA,
would
something
be
like that.
amazing.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And you're in
Yes.
Alabama, and Katie's in Alabama, and Allie and I are far
Yeah.
from Alabama. So maybe we can come up with something like that or some kind of a project that we can all connect with and do. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Voices from the Field, presented by Extra Innings Softball. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on Spotify, and visit our website at extrainningssoftball.com for more stories, rankings, and updates from around the game. We'll see you guys next week.